Hi, everyone. Today we have a very special guest. We're talking about education, holistic education with the founder of Roi University London. Um, so this is His Excellency Ambassador Professor Oluwafemi Esan. He is the ambassador of the Sovereign Kingdom of Hawaii to the United Kingdom and Vice-Chancellor of Roi University London. So I'm very excited because, as some of you may know, I'm a passionate educator. I am a fan of indigenous curriculum initiatives, decolonizing the curriculum and everything inclusion. So Femi, I'm gonna call him Femi among his many titles, if he has allowed me to do that. So Femi, can you please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you, your mission? Tell, tell us about your journey as Vice Chancellor, but also as an ambassador of the Kingdom of Hawaii to the United Kingdom.
Thank you, Dr. Monica Chavez, for this wonderful opportunity to bring in before your wonderful audience and your network, and this great opportunity to explore my vision and the vision of the university. Yes, like as you said, my name is Oluwafemi Esan. I was born in Nigeria, in a particular city called Ilesha in Osun State. I was born into a family of four, raised by a widow, and for me, my journey started in 1985 at the age of 11, going to 12, when I had a spiritual experience and an epiphany, which among the Pentecostal theological circle, that phenomenon is called the baptism of the Holy Spirit. And that's when I have this encounter with the divine. And that was the beginning of my transformation and my introduction to the experiential knowledge and phenomenon about the transpersonal experiences and having spiritual encounters. So at that very tender age, I had a vision. And that's when I received my vision about the future. And that's also led to my understanding of my assignment. In other words, I can summarize that experience as the foundation of me discovering my purpose in life. And after that, I proceeded to College of Medicine, University of Ibadan in Oyo State, the best, claimed to be the best medical school south of Sahara. And I was there for 4 years. And then in 1997, I had another epiphany encounter when I was praying and I was asking the divine that what is my assignment in life? And I received this divine message that I'm a Nazarite by birth, that my mother prayed and fasted before I came to the world. And I was really shaken by that. Then I went to ask my mom that, oh, mom, is it true that you actually asked for a child? And she said, yes. How did you know? I said, the Spirit of God told me this morning. And then she told me the story. So eventually, I was a covenant child dedicated to God before I was born. I was like, wow. So at that junction, I have that experience to go to theological school. So I had my first degree, medical degree in anatomy, physiology, and biochemistry. Then I went to theological school for 2 years, and after 2 years, I was ordained as a reverend, as a Pentecostal priest. So along the line, I also received another instruction from the divine to proceed to United Kingdom as a missionary, which was fulfilled in 2008. So I came to UK as a missionary to the academic community. And that was my assignment as missionary to the academic community. And so I told my spiritual father that I'm going back to school. And then I was granted the opportunity. So I went back to study theology again. And I graduated after 2 years. From there, I proceeded to study my first master's MSc coaching psychology. Then I became a coaching psychologist. I started working as a coaching therapist. I got myself involved in psychotherapy approach to coaching. And that was my journey into transpersonal psychology. And so
Mhm.
from there also, I proceeded to become a professional teacher. So I did my PGCE, I became a professional teacher, and I started from secondary school. I used to teach year seven kids, very
Wow.
wonderful experience. So I became, a professional qualified teacher. I taught secondary school from Key Stage 3 to Key Stage 5. I taught triple science. And from there, whenever we have a trainee teacher, I normally coach them because already I became a coach before I went to teacher training to become a professional teacher. And so I was mentoring all our trainee teachers on work placement. And that's where I begin to develop my interest into initial teacher training, which eventually I moved to the university to teach initial teacher training. So I became a consultant, and in that process, I did my first doctorate. So in transpersonal coaching from Korak in Hawaii. So I became a transpersonal coach there, and
Mhm.
right there from my graduation as a coach, I began to involve myself in mental health. I was so particular about therapy and mental health. So I opened the first transpersonal mental health virtual clinic in the UK, approaching mental health from transpersonal perspective. And in my journey, I find out that I begin to look at education. So I proceeded, I did my second master's in education, a master's of education from Canterbury Christ Church. After that, I went for my third master from Anglia Ruskin University. I did an MA in higher education. It was during that MA in higher education, I actually looked at the pedagogical approach of higher education in England and in Europe in general. And I found out that the philosophy of higher education there's a gap. That gap is that they excluded the transpersonal or the spiritual aspect of
Mhm.
human entity. That is our experience. So I became a big fan of transpersonal education. I said to myself, I'm going to pursue this. And that was what led to my involvement in transpersonal psychology, transpersonal philosophy, and eventually I became a professor of transpersonal psychology. And then 3 years ago, we had the opportunity to apply for degree awarding power from the Kingdom of Hawaii, Royal Accreditation Commission Board. And then we got it. The dream came to pass. We became a university. Along the line, I met the King, His Royal Majesty King Paki Junior Silva, and he appointed me as ambassador of the Sovereign Kingdom of Hawaii to the United Kingdom and European Union by the virtue of decree and natural adoption. So that has been my journey. Thank you.
That is very exciting. It sounds short, but I'm sure it took many years, and it's been a
Yeah,
journey for
yeah,
you. Along the way, I guess you have encountered many people who have supported you. Uh,
yes,
you mentioned that connection with an entity, a spiritual entity, a being,
yes,
a connection to God.
yes.
But I always, my experience is that these messages always come via other people. For
Okay,
me, that's my experience. Obviously, it can
okay,
be different to other people. But can you share what key people you mentioned, the His Majesty the King
yes.
of Hawaii, of the Kingdom of Hawaii?
Mhm.
How did you have mentors or allies? What other people did you encounter along your journey?
Yes, the biggest impact in my life from area of mentoring is late Dr. Miles Moreau, of blessed memory. So I read his book. In fact, in my library, I have a whole section of his book in my house. I started reading his book from 1997 when I was in medical school. In fact, the book that actually changed my life was the book titled In Pursuit of Purpose. That was
Okay.
a major game changer in my life. And that was when he talked about the 5 questions of life. Who am I? Where am I from? Why am I here? What can I do? Where am I going? So the question is, who am I? Was the first question. He said these are the 5 questions that determines life. These are the 5 questions that control every human, the five
Okay.
questions of destiny. And so Miles Monroe had a major influence over my life. My psychology, my philosophy was I heavily influenced by late Dr. Miles Monroe. And apart from that, in 2005, when I came to the United Kingdom, I also met my spiritual father in a person of Reverend Scott Chapman. He was the one that actually offered me the contract to work as a missionary evangelist in the United Kingdom. He was instrumental. His signature actually changed my life forever. So he offered me that contract. I went back to Nigeria to apply for my resident and work permit as a minister of religion. So these key people, they mentor me, late Miles Morrow, then my spiritual father. In fact, we are going together this month to New Jersey for administration. So he has had a powerful impact on my life as my mentor.
Right. So yeah, it sounds like you've had some very big supporters. How does Elroy's University, you're the founder
Yeah.
of this institution.
Mhm.
So in conversations with you, you said that it's a holistic, and also you can see on your website,
Mm.
holistic education philosophy. Can you tell
Yeah.
me why is this different to the traditional educational institutions? Why are students attracted to this offering of a holistic approach in its philosophy?
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Monica, for this question. Now, I was born in Nigeria, a former colony of the Great Britain. And so I was born under the influence of the colonized curriculum. And then I moved to the United Kingdom. I continued with the colonial master curriculum. But in my journey, I discover that if you look at the Bloom taxonomy objective of education, it said objective of education is in three domains: the affective domain, the cognitive domain, and the psychomotor domain. Now, when you look at the cognitive domain, the Western philosophy of education as focused merely on that aspect. Okay. And so when you look at the affective domain, where you develop your sense of value and your emotional development, your social emotional learning, I discover in my experience, because of the increase in the rate of suicide and depression among our undergraduates in the United Kingdom. So I was researching that statistics. In fact, United Kingdom is even known as the suicide capital of Europe. That was my concern. And I said, something is wrong with the philosophy of higher education. And so in my research, I came across the emancipatory concept of higher education. And that also was not even sufficient for me. And what I found out, Dr. Monica, is that the ontological foundation of this curriculum is the issue, because the dominant curriculum of education is based on the ontology of materialism. You see that?
Yeah.
That man is seen as mind and body. And that was my issue, because I understand at the age of 11, through my personal experience, that man is a spirit. He has a soul, he lives in a body. And that is where the philosophy of transpersonal education started for me. So I was saying to myself that I had a dream of having an higher education that will be built on the holistic foundation of a spiritual framework. That is the journey into transpersonal education philosophy.
That is fascinating. Could you maybe tell us a little bit more on this spiritual framework that underpins the curriculum at Roi University London, and what's the impact of this on students' overall growth and development? I think you mentioned it already a little bit, that we live in a very money-driven, materialistic-driven
Mm-hmm.
work, social mobility, but
Mm.
there is no consideration for other aspects of being
Mm.
human.
Yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit about the impact of this on your students?
Oh, I mean, thank you, Dr. Monica. So our first set of students 3 years ago were Nigerians. And as you know that we from the third world, part of our indigenous psychology is spirituality. So it is part of our of our indigenous spirituality. So we are fully aware of that aspect of our existence. Now, introducing a curriculum that accommodates that aspect of our existence was so easy for me. And now, because I'm bringing them to academic and psychology. In fact, the first time I introduced transpersonal psychology to our students in Nigeria, they were blown away that they never knew that there is an aspect of psychology that accommodates spirituality. And so that was very, very, very important. It was a game changer, because we introduced the core concept of transpersonal philosophy. What is that? Transpersonal philosophy is talking about purpose, meaning, and gift. You see that? So it is about education that accommodates the discovery of purpose, your personal sense of purpose, and your gift. Well, when you look at the Western dominant philosophy of education, we are trained to look for a career, not to discover ourselves. And
Mhm.
the evidence is there. The number of undergraduates that are having depression issue, having suicide issue, confusion and frustration, the statistics is there. So how can somebody go through a 3 years higher education and they still come out confused? That is questionable. And that's what we have been experiencing. Introducing transpersonal philosophy of education, accommodating our indigenous spirituality, and connecting education to your giftedness is a major game changer for us at London University.
So how do students in practice, how does that look like? How, because you if you're a student, you enter a degree thinking, well, I have to get a job at the end of it. It's kind of the investment
Mm,
that young people make, or anybody makes.
mm,
And obviously it is important, but what you bring with Elro University is that it is possible. Well, that's my understanding. It is possible to progress and to have material success,
mm.
financial success, that goes in hand with your personal development and your almost your soul's satisfaction as well,
Mhm,
not
mhm,
just the mental and the physical. So in
mhm.
practice, what do you do in the curriculum? What initiatives do you implement to cultivate that in students, that development of that area?
Okay, thank you for that question, Dr. Monica. So we have a compulsory module in transpersonal psychology. So all students will take that module, which I personally teach.
Hmm.
So that module is when they are introduced to the basic concept of transpersonal psychology, and then we expose them to reflect. For example, one of the first topic that we look into is transpersonal ontology. So we look at ontology from transpersonal perspective. We question them we give the opportunity to reflect on their concept of reality. We ask questions like, what is the origin of man? Where does man come from? And don't forget that our ontological foundation for this transpersonal philosophy of education is based on creationism. So there is no spirituality without a creator. That's it. And so the foundation there is to look at people have different subjective interpretation of the creator, but we all agree, that there is a creator. And so if there is a creator, that means you have to look into your concept of creationism. And so we give them that room, and then we ask them to write a reflective essay. So in transpersonal psychology, our assessment is purely reflective assessment. So they write their own personal reflection, and that gives them the opportunity to reflect on their concept, on their values, and their belief system. And in most cases, they come out with that understanding that I'm a spirit, I exist beyond time and space. Thank you.
Okay, that's great. So a lot of reflection, which I think we live in a frantic world and things are really fast, and sometimes people don't make space for reflection. So that's a really good skill to have.
Thank you.
Um, so I guess my next question is about how this specifically prepares student. What kind of careers would they pursue after this? Because I guess I'm thinking they come out being a whole person. They
Mhm,
come out being purpose driven, and
mhm,
they know their value and they have something to offer. And
mhm,
what is the message? What are the strategies that you cultivate in them to enter the modern world,
yeah.
which normally is just covers the two dimensions that you mentioned, physical
Mm,
and mental? So what are the strategies that are implemented in the curriculum to support these learners to
mm,
almost face or encounter without
mhm,
changing themselves? Because this is really challenging. You have to change yourself in order to function
mm, mm,
in in our world.
yeah.
Other people maybe naturally are like that, monitor, but other people are more conscious. So
Mhm,
what you're doing is developing students' consciousness in a
mhm,
way. You're
mhm,
expanding their awareness.
mm.
But then they enter a world in which the majority doesn't live in that expanded awareness.
Yes.
So how do they cope?
Thank you so much. Yes, we have a model, and that model to our curriculum is based on the biopsychosocial spiritual model. So the biopsychosocial spiritual model. We believe that these four domains are the holistic domain of human development. And these four domains, they have influence on each other. So an imbalance in one domain will cause a ripple effect. And so when you look at the traditional Eurocentric westernized philosophy of education, is only biopsychosocial. That's it. They excluded the spiritual domain. Now, we are basing it on spiritual domain. However, we now build on that spiritual domain the bio, the psycho, and the social, meaning that we prepare them. But one thing that is so fundamental to transpersonal philosophy of education is what we also teach is a concept of transpersonal entrepreneurship. We believe that the world today, we are living in a knowledge-driven economy. Now, so if the world is living in a knowledge-driven economy, what gives you competitive edge is your ability to be creative and to be innovative. We also teach and we believe in the transpersonal philosophy that innovation and creativity are experiences of transpersonal inspiration. If you look at every major inventor that has changed the face of humanity, they had a quantum leap from that cognitive and tapped into the higher self. And that creativity came down from the higher consciousness. And they were able to create and make inventions that have changed the face of humanity. That is a transpersonal experience. And so this is what we teach. Secondly, we also believe that every human being has a seed of business within themselves. If you look at our slogan in our university, we said unlocking the solutions within you. We believe that every human being is born to solve a problem for humanity. And when you discover that problem, that is your business. Therefore, every human being has a seed of business. So we are not only encouraging our graduates to go out there and look for a job, they can start with a job, but between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m., they do that job. But from 5 p.m. to 12 midnight, they need to work on their deployment. What is that deployment? Deployment is your release of your gift and talent to solve a particular problem for humanity. So you can start your job 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. You are working for somebody, earning a salary, developing yourself. But when you reach home, you start working on your own work. We use the term work, W-O-R-K. What is work? Work is the problem you are born to solve for humanity. That's our concept. Your work is the deployment of your gift and talent in producing a business with a product or a service. So we train them on this. So they start with normal career, they start 9 to 5. But while they're at home, when they get home, at least 3 hours in a day, you must invest into your own work. And that is the order.
Right. This is great, but I don't know if you have encountered people who says, I don't have it in me. I just, I don't care. I want to work my 9 to 5. It's just a job and I just want to live my life and do the things that most people do. I don't know what my purpose is and I don't care if I don't have a purpose. What would you tell these people?
Yeah, I mean, it's quite unfortunate. That is the reality of most people that have gone through the traditional education system. So the concept of finding your purpose. But what we found out from psychology of fulfillment is a question you ask these people, are you fulfilled? That's it.
Okay.
You will discover that most people that have not found their personal sense of purpose and meaning in life, they dread Monday mornings and they cannot wait for 5 p.m. to dash out. And you will hear this expression coming from most people, this job is killing me. And it's true. The job is actually killing them. So they are operating on the survival mode and it's affecting their mental health. Doctor, this is affecting our mental health. In fact, United Nations, the World Health Organization has predicted by 2030, the number one pandemic that the world will be facing is depression. Now you can see that is why we look at the issue of depression at work. So you ask them that question, are you really happy with what you do? Apart from surviving to pay your bills, are you sure you are enjoying what you do? You'll be surprised. They will
Most
tell you
people
no.
would say no.
Thank you. Thank you, doctor. And this is
That's
where our transpersonal concept comes in. That do you know that you don't need to leave what you do 9 to 5, but from 5 to 12, you can start working on your self-discovery. We don't tell people to stop working. No. You can start working on your 5 to 12 midnight. That is a time to invest into yourself. And this is a kind of training we introduce our students to.
I think that's very powerful because as a personal experience,
Mm,
I'm an overachiever. I was always very academic. I would always go good grades. I achieved things because that's what society made me do, and it comes from my upbringing, I guess. I had to perform, achieve. And there was a point in my life that I achieved my big goal and I was so miserable.
mm,
That environment and the job and the money,
mm,
I wasn't happy.
mm,
And I always thought there is something more. And I thought I was a reflective I am quite reflective compared to a lot of people I know. Some people are naturally more reflective than
yeah,
others.
yeah,
How do you think, especially young people, can
yeah.
find that? I found it. I found my purpose. I knew it was
Mm,
there, but it took a lot of pain, emotional pain,
mm,
to get to that point of taking that call seriously
mm,
and
mm,
that entrepreneurship and overcome the fear of doing it, going for it, failing and trying again.
mm.
And I like you said, I honestly think that all of us have that entrepreneurial spirit.
Yes,
But what do you think is the main barrier for anybody
yeah,
wishing to enter that space, that this is mine, this is my purpose, and this is the problem I want to solve?
yeah. I mean, thank you so much, Monica. Last, I mean, you said it beautifully. You've achieved. You now see that all things you are overachiever. You achieve all these things, but
Yeah,
according to whose expectation? You see that
yeah,
one of the greatest problem hindrance is social conformity. We are conformed by expectation of our parents, our culture, our environment, and then also the educational system we are exposed to. And so these has conformed us to lose our individuality. And then we live to be accepted by either the culture, peer pressure, family expectation, sometimes religious expectation. So you want to be fit in, and that is the main barrier. So when you fit in, people find it very difficult to come out of the crowd. Why should I be different? If I become different, I will lose my friend, and that is true. When you discover your
it is
purpose,
true.
when you discover your purpose, you will lose friends. Yes,
Yes, it's the
yes,
fear of being expelled from the tribe, isn't
thank
it?
you. Yes, that's it.
Not belonging. So what would you tell those people that I want to do this? So it's fear
Yeah,
that you think is the main factor, fear of
yes,
being casted out,
yeah,
ostracized
absolutely,
from the tribe.
absolutely, absolutely. That's
So
the fear.
how can you overcome that fear of not belonging anymore to your in group?
Yeah. So to overcome that, you must have an encounter with yourself.
But it's hard for a lot of people.
Yes, yeah, yeah, and that's why we develop a transpersonal uh, coaching model based on the 5 questions of life. If viewers go to our website, the Transpersonal Mental Health Clinic, we have a specific model of transpersonal coaching based on the 5 questions of life, and those are the questions that we give our client, our student. You go home, sit down, and think about this. Number one, where am I from? That's the question. That's the first question. It's nothing religious, it's nothing mystical, it's just a reflective question. 5 questions. Most people are too busy. The moment you stop people and say, have you ever thought about where you came from? What is your belief system about the origin of man, origin of existence? Where do you come from? They will pause for a while. Wow. Because Dr. Monica, the truth of the matter is that if you don't know your origin, you cannot know your destination.
True.
And the value of a thing is determined by the value of its source. And that is the first question, the question of the source. Where is the source of humanity? Now, your belief system about that will determine whether you are ready to face yourself and discover your inner self. And that's in the journey. It's just we
But
use questioning approach. We don't force anybody into any religion, eschatis or religious gathering. It's just pure questioning. Don't take this question, take your time, answer them, reflect on them. Then you bring it back to the next session. We use that coaching approach.
I would say most people don't want to face themselves. It's
Yeah,
because it's hard.
yeah, absolutely.
It's hard to face your weaknesses
Yeah,
as well as your strengths, and to face the fact that success
yeah,
and is within reach, and that happiness and everything
hmm,
fulfillment is possible.
yeah,
It's scary. It's
absolutely.
fear. So I'm curious if about you and about all of this that you have shared, this transpersonal psychology. Can
Mhm.
you share any personal moments in which you were changed
Yeah.
by you shared at the beginning about your vision, how you
Hmm.
got insight
Hmm.
into your path,
Yeah.
but in your personal life, how do you apply transpersonal psychology in your day to day as a founder?
Yeah.
You are a parent as well, as a parent,
Hmm.
as a teacher,
Hmm.
in different areas. How do you apply this transpersonal psychology?
Yeah. I mean, one of the practical principles is that whenever you meet anybody in life, there is no coincidence. I
I
met you,
agree.
there is a purpose. And here we are today
Correct. Yes.
talking to you. So, so there's no coincidence in life. So, secondly, whoever you meet in life is your teacher. There's
Correct.
something life have sent you to learn from that person. Now, these are the practical concept of understanding. Where this coming from is coming from the understanding that we are all part of universal consciousness. We all came from the same source.
From the same source. I just heard this in the morning from
Mm,
Reverend Michael Beckwith. I don't know
mm.
if you follow
Okay,
him. He's
okay.
an American influencer, and he said we all come from the same source, and everybody's our teacher, even the so-called enemies.
Thank you.
So this is a concept in transpersonal psychology, then,
Yeah, 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 yeah. Because
that
you understand, even nature itself, we are all part of nature. Nature and humanity are from the same source based on creationism. So, and that gives us the transpersonal sustainable psychology mentality, through spiritual ecology there, we are part of that. And so when I meet you, I'm meeting you because there is a divine message, an assignment that the origin of life himself, we will call him ultimate reality, has ordained me to meet you. That's it. Secondly, every human that you meet, you are from the same source, regardless of color and gender. You know why? We are spirit being, and spirit has no gender, has no color. And that is
Mhm.
transpersonal philosophy. So there is neither male nor female in spiritual identity. Therefore, there's no discrimination. You are part of my source, I'm one of your source. Thirdly, we also believe there is something that every human being has been gifted to share with humanity. And that is the core philosophy of our education. Discovering the gift you are meant to share with humanity. We call it releasing your personal glory from the Hebrew concept, the concept of glory. And so when I go out, I see my student, I'm looking for the message the universe is sending to me through those students. And sometimes they don't even know. They don't even know that they are teaching me. I'm learning. After a while, I share with them, do you know I've observed you? I learned this from you. Oh, how come? I say, yes, because I have that mentality. Every human I meet is my teacher. Even the drunk that is walking on the street, there's a message the universe is passing to you. And when I now bring it within the concept of psychology of religion, I said to people, there is God outside religious gathering. God is speaking to every one of us through us every day. Thank you.
So you mentioned, so obviously some people are very skeptical about the existence of God or a higher spirit,
Mm-hmm.
but there are other people who feel very much in awe and connected to nature.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, I'm not sure if I understand correctly, but transpersonal ecology.
Ecology, yes. Spiritual ecology,
Yes.
yes.
Yes. Can you explain us a little bit what is that about? Because I know you recently launched a
Yes.
program, so
Mm-hmm.
I would
Mm-hmm.
like to know more.
Oh, thank you. Ecology is the study of man's emotional attachment to the ecosystem, to nature itself. However, transpersonal ecology or spiritual ecology is saying that, wait a minute, our connection to nature is not just emotional, it is purely spiritual. Why? Nature and humanity are part and parcel of universal consciousness. We are from the same source. And so when you understand that ideology, your attitude to look after nature resources becomes natural. But when man don't understand that and they are living in the dichotomy of mind and body, you will begin to use nature for your instant gratification and the gains of capitalism. And then we come to where we find ourselves. Nature, ozone layer is being depleted, climate change is happening, industrial pollution is taking place because man does not see nature as part of themselves. And that's it.
So I think, well, I hear a lot of community collectivism because we all come from the same source. We're
Mm-hmm.
all interconnected, and I think technology has made it visible
Mm-hmm.
how connected we all are. And I just wonder, considering this, and what advice would you give to educators, teachers, those people on the ground, the lecturers, the FE lecturers, the teachers in secondary school that are part of the mainstream
Mm-hmm.
educational system?
Yeah.
How can they adopt a more holistic approach to education, um, and pass this gift to young people, and perhaps teach them that material reward is good, but is not everything, and that we have this higher consciousness
Mm-hmm.
and this sense of purpose
Mm-hmm.
that will bring fulfillment. I think the curriculum, since you're in primary school, is very facts oriented. It is not decolonized at
Mm-hmm.
all until recently. There is more representation. You
Mm-hmm.
talk about Black History Month, and you my son goes to a religious school, which
Mm-hmm.
is Jewish, and they have conversations
Mm-hmm.
about ethnic diversity. But
Mm-hmm.
that is not the rule, that's the exception.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how can, at all levels, maybe because you train as a teacher as well,
Yeah.
how can teachers, educators, and anybody interested, parents as well,
Mm,
adopt a more holistic approach to education and the principles of transpersonal psychology
mm.
into their day to day with young people?
Yeah, I mean, thank you so much for this question. I was asked similar question on Friday. On Saturday morning, I was, conducting a leadership training, and the key here, the major influence here, is the government. One, two, the national curriculum. The
Hmm.
national curriculum. I used to be a secondary school teacher in London here. The government and national curriculum. Don't forget that in the philosophy of curriculum, there's what we call hidden curriculum. So every curriculum has a hidden agenda. And when you look at the curriculum also, you look at the philosophy of the curriculum, it is also has its own political undertone. In other words, the dominant hegemony philosophy of curriculum is what we need to look at. And for me, what led to my curiosity is the rate of depression among our teenagers. So why don't we have a curriculum that addresses mental health from a transpersonal perspective? Not, that is for me, that's my argument. And that's why we have launched our secondary school curriculum, that is transpersonal education at level 2. And we're starting in
Mm.
Africa. So we have a curriculum, a secondary school curriculum on transpersonal education. And doctor, the thing is that we don't need to wait until these kids started having mental health issue. They will now look for intervention. Why don't you have a curriculum that will teach them about self-discovery and purpose in our national curriculum? And that can only be achieved if you look at what is the ontological foundation of our curriculum. As you know, the dominant curriculum is based on the ontology of materialism. And that's where the problem lies. As long as humanity sees itself as a material entity, we will continue to have this problem. You see that? And so if you now introduce a curriculum that addresses our ontological foundation, that, wait a minute, there is an alternative way of knowing outside scientific knowing. Not only that, our concept of reality should be a spiritual framework that embraces humanity as a spirit being, not just a component, but the essential nature of our being is spiritual. Then you now integrate the psychology, the emotional, and the social on that. That is what is holistic. And it has to start with the government. That's how to make the change.
Please, yeah, that is true. But please correct me if I'm wrong, because my
Mm,
education, I studied in Mexico. I'm from Mexico, so I did primary, secondary, high
mm,
school, and my first degree in psychology in a Mexican university.
mm,
And because I come from a colonized country by
yeah.
the Spanish,
Mhm,
500 years of ruling, of
mm,
colonization that shaped what is modern Mexico.
mm,
And what I studied in history, in civic education, and everything was
mm,
always infused with the mix of races.
mm,
History was portrayed, obviously, for the appropriate level of a child. We knew our origin. We knew we came from indigenous people. We knew, and it was very clear, that we
mm,
were a young country that was oppressed,
mm,
and that there was abuse, and
mm,
that the resources were depleted. And this is something that all Mexicans are aware of. But
mm,
my impression in
mm,
the English curriculum is that there is not an explicit acknowledgement of the brutality of slaverism. And I always saw that as very damaging. And when a student enters university, they don't know anything about around this, and it comes as a shock.
mm,
And obviously, the people who deliver that curriculum at
mhm,
university come from the same background and
mhm,
went through a school system that never addressed the history of
mm,
Britain.
mm,
And I'm always puzzled because in Mexico, you just know and you study it and you know it and you carry it with you, and it's part of
mm,
your identity and cultural
mm,
heritage, and you live in that, on the edge almost. But here it's not like that. Maybe I'm wrong. Can you add anything, because you said it, the curriculum has to change,
yeah.
and I think it's changing because I can see these conversations happening with my kids.
Mm,
um they talk about slaverism and they are aware of it now, but when I talk to older people, like people my age who are
mm,
British and they went to school, they feel very uncomfortable.
yeah. Yeah.
So
You are not alone, Dr. Monica. I was born in Nigeria, a former colony of Great Britain. And not only that, my parents were born under the colonial era. I was born in 1973, and that was exactly 13 years after we gained the so-called political independence. And
political.
yeah, political. Now, I'm going to be very honest with you. The oppressed has trauma.
Yes,
The oppressor also has trauma.
of course.
So both the
Yeah,
oppressor and the
both.
oppressed are suffering from trauma. And that's why we propose transpersonal education philosophy for both the oppressed and the oppressor. Can I start with the oppressed? Now, the
Yeah,
oppressed is coming from a place whereby their indigenous psychology and indigenous identity plus their indigenous spirituality has been eroded
hmm,
by the imposed colonized curriculum that has no framework to incorporate the essential indigenous spirituality of the third world people. You see that? And therefore, they lose their identity. Even when you look at religion, the religion that was even given to us in the third world was also colonized. You see that? So, and that done a great deal of damage into our psyche. And that's why you will see a third world person with a PhD suffering for low self-esteem. You see that? So that is a major issue with the oppressed. Now, the oppressor that talking about the imperialists that left the shores of their home to go and take over foreign territory is also suffering from trauma. You may
of
ask,
course.
what is that trauma? The trauma of superiority complex. You see
It's
that?
exhausting. It must be to
So,
have that
so
superiority complex.
exactly, because there's nothing superiority complex when it comes to humanity. Humanity is from the same source, universal consciousness. And so for you to live over the years with a supremacy mindset, you are suffering from trauma.
And I guess part of it is that numbing of emotions
Yeah.
and that lack of depth in your life. And I guess that's the root source of depression. You numb
Absolutely.
yourself down and you have this strong facade and
Yeah,
nobody wins really.
exactly. So we from the oppressed nation, I always say to my people, you don't need to hate the oppressor. In
No.
fact, the oppressor need empathy because of the weight of superiority complex that makes you to look at another human being and classify them by the color of their skin. That is so reductionist in its approach. You see that? And so
Mhm.
they are carrying a heavy weight. Yeah. All men are born equal from the same source. And so when you come to transpersonal philosophy of education, we said humans are spiritual beings trying to have a physical experience. And that's the beauty of transpersonal psychology. So the oppressor and the oppressed, they need transpersonal psychology.
Okay. Wow, this is very intense. I love this kind of conversations, and I love the fact that you address that because we often talk about inclusion in decolonizing the curriculum, and the focus is it almost feel like guilt tripping
Mhm,
sometimes, and
mhm,
that's not the intention. I think
mhm.
the intention is to show that everybody is has a trauma
Yeah, thank you.
from those colonial
Yeah,
times, and it's uncomfortable for everyone
yeah.
to address. I do believe though that it needs to the poison needs to come out, and I think we are in that stage
Mm,
of
mm,
awareness and conversation in
mhm.
which the poison has to be released in order to move on.
Yes.
How do you envision this moving forward? Those type of conversations that indigenous wisdom,
Mhm.
decolonizing, transpersonal psychology in the next years. How is it going to evolve? You are the expert in this field, so
Yeah, I mean, thank
I'm
you, Dr.
interested.
Monica. I just said it. I know it is strange to many of our viewers or listeners that for the first time they are hearing that the oppressor is also traumatized.
Yes.
Because most of us in the colonized world, we don't see it there. We don't see the fact that these oppressors with the white supremacy mentality are suffering from trauma and they need empathy from us. And that is the beauty of transpersonal psychology. So it's a place whereby both the oppressed and the oppressor need to come together to the table and ask them one question. One question. Are you fulfilled with your mindset? Are you fulfilled? Like I said to you, Dr. Monica, it's just a question. It's a reflective question we use in our transpersonal coaching and counseling approach. It's a question of reflective thinking. If you go around with a white Eurocentric supremacy mindset, that is enough internal pressure on you. That is internal pressure on you, looking down on everybody, not seeing people as being equal. You are carrying a weight. And check out, it's as you said, that is the foundation of numbing your emotion, living in denial, and you are working towards depression.
So, right. So, two things. So, are you fulfilled with your mindset?
Thank you.
Let's say I say no. Can you? What can I do? What can I
Question again.
do
Question again, Dr.
to
Monica. Yeah,
change my mindset and become fulfilled? Tell me
yeah,
two or three practical things.
yeah. That's why I said it's reflective questioning. That's the beauty of
Okay.
transpersonal approach. We have transpersonal coaching, transpersonal counseling, and in our transpersonal counseling, we use psychoeducation, which also the main tools that we use is reflective questioning. That's it. It's reflective questioning. You ask a question, allow the individual to think. Sometimes you give them as an homework. Ask them to spend 30 minutes in a day and ask that question. Am I fulfilled with my philosophy? You want to explore their philosophy of life. Don't forget that every one of us, we are operating from a belief system. The sad reality is that most people have not sat down and question the origin of their belief system, what they
Mm.
believe about life, about themselves. You see that? Have you sat down and questioned the origin of that belief? Where did that come from? Why did I believe what I believe?
But some of those are subconscious processes that we have acquired from our family, from
Yeah,
society,
yeah.
is the cultural landscape. And
Hmm.
I think, and I love social media, but I hate social media as well because it's another numbing mechanism.
Yeah, yeah. I call
We
it
can
escapism.
escapism. We can spend half an hour scrolling
Yeah,
instead of asking these important questions
yeah, yeah,
about ourselves. So, okay, so two things that you share. Are you fulfilled with your mindset? No. So reflect, ask questions.
yeah,
I guess ask the right questions, and you
yeah,
offer a framework
yeah,
with that. And let's say my answer is yes, I'm fulfilled and I want to do more.
yeah.
What two or three things, if I'm happy with my mindset, what can I do to
Then we move to
move
the next
forward,
question.
support
Yeah,
humanity?
yeah. We move to the next question. The five questions of life. So if you said you are fulfilled, the question is, where are you going? And the
Okay.
question is of destination, and that speaks about your vision. What is your vision? Now, your vision is what allows you to do more. Your vision is what determines your decision making process, because life is full of options and alternatives every day. But your vision now becomes the determining factor that judges my actions, investment of my time, my material resources, my fellowship with people, my partnership is based on my vision. So we move to that question of vision. And when you look around, that is one of the main suffering of humanity. It's about vision. People don't have a personal sense of vision. That's it.
So I guess you use the questions to, because at some point in my life I felt very sure about the vision I had built. And it's funny because when I got there I wasn't happy. So it really made me question, where did I, how it was my level. So the level of consciousness that you had when you
Mm-hmm.
created that vision will give you the result.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So I guess, what if I build the wrong vision?
Mm-hmm.
What do I do?
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you advise people to do to build the right vision for themselves?
Again, is reflection. That's it. Everybody has a blind spot.
Yeah, we
Right.
do.
And that is why we need a transpersonal counselor and a transpersonal coach that will give you questions along the line of purpose and destiny. For example, a lot of people have ambition, not vision. There are two different things. And most ambition are coming from traumatic motivation.
That's powerful.
Yeah. And this is
Yes.
what I found out in my personal research with trauma.
Hmm.
In fact, tonight I'm having a class on the psychology of trauma after this very interview. I look at how trauma has influenced our ambition and our desire. So you have a child that was not given attention to, suffering from insecure attachment, and that child want to prove a point.
Yeah, overachiever. That's me.
Thank you, doctor.
That's me. That's me.
Bless you. Bless you.
I'm the middle child. I wanted the attention. So I became an overachiever. That was the healthiest way to get that love and attention and approval and validation
Thank
from
you.
parents initially. And then you just become addicted to it. And
You.
it's
Thank
validation from all angles. And
you.
I'm very I'm very upfront, and I love sharing that because I think people my generation, the millennials, I'm at the end of the millennials,
Mhm.
are addicted to validation. And
Yeah.
I have hope about the coming generations that they'll
Yeah.
be a little bit more conscious and more aware. And I think the work that you're doing will be a great factor in
Thank you.
young people
Yeah.
considering Elroy University as
Mm.
an option that goes beyond just pure employability, and to look further and think, oh, well, yes, material reward is important, but what about this and that
Yeah.
other factors, the
Hmm.
blind spots you said.
Yeah, like absolutely.
Okay, so what are your hopes? Last question. What are your hopes and aspirations for the future of holistic education and Elroy University London in the
Yeah.
next years? What's going on? Tell us a little bit.
Yeah, my hope. We just launched our Faculty of Transpersonal Mental Health Care, the first of its kind in the movement of transpersonal psychology. Because, like I said, the World Health Organization has predicted that by year 2030, the number one health issue in both developing and developed world is depression. And so we need that's the next pandemic now. And
Mhm.
I have the hope that the answer is a transpersonal mental care model that incorporates the bio, psycho, social, spiritual model with the foundation of a spiritual framework. And that is what we are launching in different countries. So we started in Africa now. In fact, by tomorrow, we have a meeting at the House of Lords in the UK. We'll be meeting the ambassador of Zimbabwe. We'll be introducing our education philosophy. So we're launching in Southern Africa and Eastern Africa. And then what we now do now, before the end of this year, we are going to launch in Europe. Like I said, the colonial master, the oppressor, and the oppressed are both traumatized. And transpersonal
Mhm.
mental health movement is the key solution to that.
That is fascinating.
Thank
Is
you.
there anything else you'd like to add, Femi, to this conversation?
Yeah, I would just like to say that the world is suffering from crisis of identity, and we are operating a materialistic ontology. As long as the world operates a materialistic ontology of reality, the crisis will continue. We are not just robots. We are not just mind and body. We are spiritual beings, regardless of our belief, race, and color. Thank you.
And okay, very last question. Where do you see yourself in your mission in the
Yeah.
next 5 years? And what do you advise people as well? People like you, young people who
Yeah.
are hungry, they want to do things, they want purpose, they want to launch their business,
Mm-hmm,
they want to
mm-hmm.
have a successful career. So first about you, what where do you see yourself, and then give advice to our listeners and to young people.
Thank you, Dr. Monica. Yeah, a tree cannot make a forest. It takes
Okay, explain.
it takes a company to fulfill a calling. This movement is not a one-man show. When you look at the forest, it's made up of trees. So what we are raising in Elroy, we are raising graduates that are agent of change. Agent of change. We believe that every graduate that come in contact with our curriculum will become an agent of change in their environment, and then the change will spread. Secondly, we also believe that transpersonal philosophy and approach to mental education is a movement, and the movement have started. And so I'll be in America by the end of this month. I'll be launching. I'm also launching the Pentecostal, the theological version of it called biblical psychology. I'm launching that, and not only that, we are raising ambassadors with this philosophy so that in their countries they are going to become agent of change. And I'm so excited because it is real. The world is looking for solution outside conventional psychology. We know that. It's it. You are also aware of that. And because
Mhm.
of that awareness, that is what gives us the momentum to introduce transpersonal philosophy to the whole world. Thank you.
Fantastic, thank you. That is so inspiring and exciting. It's all this movement globally, and like you said, it's not a one person, it's a collective
Yeah.
effort, and it's for the benefit for everybody. So we need to probably, I'm gonna put these 5 questions in the description of this episode because I think everyone should start thinking about their own. What was your question? Are you fulfilled with your mindset?
Mm,
That's a very powerful question, and the guide questions that you offer is a very good tool. Thank you so much for me. I really enjoyed our conversation.
thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Okay.